On 30 November 1965, members of the 173rd Airborne Brigade made an assault landing on the outskirts of Phuong Lam. Their mission was to seek out and destroy any Viet Cong in the area and establish a perimeter defense post. The landing was made in a nearby rice field. Immediately upon landing, the troops saddled up and moved out. The men filed quickly past the villagers to take up their defense positions around the perimeter of the community. The entire action was carried out without difficulty. Dense undergrowth was encountered on the other side of the village, and patrols began moving out to search for any Viet Cong who may have been hiding in the thick cover. Elsewhere, the general move-up continued. Meanwhile, the commander and another officer determined the most effective deployment of the men in carrying out their defense mission. Logistic support for the mission commenced almost immediately as the cargo helicopters began arriving and offloading vehicles, ammunition, and supplies. In rapid succession, the big helicopters unloaded and took to the air again. Overhead, Sky Raiders appeared to reconnoiter and pinpoint any Viet Cong personnel in the area. But none were found, and the men settled in for their long vigil to deny enemy access to Phuong Lam. In the early morning hours of 14 December 1965, sentry dog handlers take their canine charges for a training session at a specially designed training area in Tan Son Nhut. The animals are first drilled for obedience to commands given by voice, hand signal, and leash pressure. Instant response to the handler's silent command motions is a prime requisite for these dogs. Orderly behavior on duty is also essential. Should the sentry dog be required to pursue an elusive prowler, it must be able to overcome all kinds of obstacles while tracking and chasing the quarry. To build stamina and confidence in the animals, the handlers put them through a rigorous obstacle course. This phase of the training also keeps the dogs agile and physically fit. Some of the obstacles which these canine sentries easily leap would be difficult for a man to clear. Another aspect of the training session is to teach the dog to protect the handler from sneak attack by an assailant. Ranging in weight from 70 to 100 pounds, these military dogs are a formidable adversary for any would-be attacker. Once released, a sentry dog quickly levels the intruder and holds him prisoner. When the cornerstone had been set in place, the civilian and military dignitaries returned to the platform, and the smallest orphans sang for them. With their gift of $3,000, the Army signalmen had created a new home for these unfortunate boys and girls. Along the road to Phu To Hoa, Ja Din, Vietnamese orphans wave their flags to celebrate the building of a new orphanage. The date is 12 December 1965, and the Vietnamese Honor Guard salutes the arriving members of the U.S. Army Signal Corps, whose financial contribution made the new orphanage possible. As in all ceremonies of this kind, there were speeches to thank the U.S. servicemen. And the all-girl choral society performed as the assembled dignitaries looked on. For some 50 children, this day's groundbreaking ceremonies would never be forgotten. Even the government in Saigon took notice of the occasion and sent a special envoy to officiate on behalf of the people. At last, the solemn moment arrived when it was time to lay the cornerstone, and the Saigon representatives stepped forward to do the honors. When the cornerstone had been set in place, the civilian and military dignitaries returned to the platform, and the smallest orphans sang for them. With their gift of $3,000, the Army signalmen had created a new home for these unfortunate boys and girls. As the ceremonies came to a conclusion, the commemorative book was signed by the officials, and another civic action was complete. In cooperation with the Civil Affairs Support Command at Nha Trang, medical officers of the Army and Air Force conducted a sanitation evaluation mission on 7 December 1965. Purpose of the investigation was to locate possible sources of contamination and breeding places for disease-bearing insects. An exposed and unsanitary hotel kitchen was spotted by the investigators and through Civil Affairs Support Command listed for cleanup. Other sanitation hazards were located at the same site, such as these partially empty bottles and cans. Fermented liquids and stagnating sewage water are principal breeding places for germs and disease-bearing mosquitoes. After a thorough inspection, the researchers wrote up their reports and moved on to continue their work. Through such investigations as this, sanitation work is moving forward. At Cam Ranh Bay, one of South Vietnam's seaports, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is installing a De Long floating pier. This mammoth pier is capable of providing dockage for several ocean-going vessels at once. The floating pier, which is an engineering marvel, was first towed into the desired position. All heavy equipment needed to accomplish installation, such as this 70-ton crane, was placed aboard. Welders go to work shortly thereafter and neatly seam the cut-off stub to the cap acceptance collar. Securing bolts are welded to each jack. These are the bolts which will fasten the jack to the deck of the pier. From the nearby barge, the entire caisson assembly and how it functions could be plainly seen. The busiest man on the job was the crane operator. Here he is seen tipping over one of the massive caisson sections as he gets it ready for removal from the pier. Just clearing away pieces of caisson was a chore in itself. Checking on the welders again, they were busy trimming up the stub from the last cut, which has left a jagged edge. Unless this procedure was followed, it would have made the capping operation difficult. To hold down the caps, outsized bolts were used, and these were finally snugged down with great construction wrenches. Cam Bay had gotten its new pier.
The 1,000-pounders they call iron bombs. When these aircraft go out, they'll be carrying a full load of trouble for the Viet Cong.
Roger, from coming in from the southeast. I have you in sight now. Contest temperature, make it to 3 o'clock, slightly high.
Roger, no zero yet, but the target from my position now is about 11 or 12 o'clock, about 1 mile in the valley over there.
You go ahead and mark it, and is it right about where that smoke is coming up from right now?
Okay, it's about a mile down the valley to the east from that smoke.
In the military action in Vietnam, a squadron of fighter aircraft has been called on for close support of a Marine company held up by punishing enemy fire from an abandoned village. Guided by the small observation plane close above the green battlefields of Vietnam, the Marine airstrike dives on target. Viet Cong's strong point has been broken by the precise application of air power, a vital part of this unusual war in which the political, economic, and psychological factors demand as much consideration as the military. Now the men of Lima Company, 1st Marines, are able to move forward because of the skillful use of an aircraft superbly adapted to supporting the riflemen in ground combat, the F-4B all-weather fighter, the Phantom. Empty racks show hundreds of pounds of destruction have been delivered to the enemy. Now, Condal 83 heads for home. This is the flight leader, Lieutenant Colonel A.W. O'Donnell. The flight is part of Marine Squadron VMFA 323. Colonel O'Donnell is the skipper. Da Nang, 323's home port, is a main American base. Every day, this Center for Tactical Air Support launches and retrieves hundreds of combat sorties. Back at Da Nang, the aircraft of Condal 83 become geared to a fast-moving ground operation. They've got to be ready for the next mission whenever it comes. Flight crews go in for debriefing. And the squadron skipper inspects the aircraft.
Yeah, number 2 was hit, we believe it was on the first run. He thought he felt something was one hole in the left portion of the stabulator. 3 gun position shooting, looked like automatic weapon, 12.7 millimeter. Was there any pattern to it? They were all shooting at the same time. Reasonably accurate. We got picked up in fire on the first run. 3 pulled up.
Refueling and repair are completed quickly. The Phantoms are soon back to mission readiness. It's usually 95 degrees plus on the Da Nang flight line, but their mechanics are doing as good a job as they know how, and they're all experts. On the empty racks of the F-4Bs go deadly air-to-ground missiles, pods of rockets, the 1,000-pounders they call iron bombs. When these aircraft go out, they'll be carrying a full load of trouble for the Viet Cong. On constant alert for maintenance and repair, the mechanics at Da Nang eat and sleep on the flight line. They're currently working some 14 hours a day, and they even do a little moonlighting on the side. The extra job, reinforcing the nighttime guard for the aircraft they service by day. Around the broad perimeter of the airfield, they mount posts and roving patrols against infiltrating Viet Cong. We have learned through some bitter experience just how high airplanes rate on the enemy's list of targets. These smoking ruins from his abortive attack on Da Nang in June 1965 are the enemy's backhanded tribute to American air power. From his hiding places down below, he's watching this high road of air support. It brings the planes that snoop out his presence and pour a destructive attack on his head. In Vietnam, our complete command of the air is a prime tactical advantage. To sustain close air support, we've created forward bases out of some of the most unpromising territory on Earth. At Chu Lai, this sandy waste was pushed and scraped into smoothness. Aluminum mats were bolted together to form an instant airstrip called SATS, Short Airfield for Tactical Support, the working start for the present vast complex at Chu Lai. Within days, with portable arresting gear installed, the new base was in operation. Near Chu Lai and our other bases, Hawk missile batteries stand guard against possible aerial attack. Firing at fast-flying drones keeps men and missiles prepared for enemy action. A mainstay of Marine Corps air operations in Vietnam is the KC-130, called Hercules. Its principal assignment is air-to-air refueling, so when Hercules teams up with the Phantom, it's not something new on TV. It's a technique that adds hundreds of miles to the range of the F-4B. With it, attack aircraft can provide constant top cover for the troops fighting below. The KC-130 is a regular visitor to the front lines, dropping tons of ammunition and supplies in each flight. On its short-haul assignments, Hercules is the champion weightlifter in the stable of Marine aircraft. Its rugged construction makes this plane unnatural for operations in Vietnam. To Chulai and Da Nang, together with the troops and weapons of war, Hercules sometimes brings a special kind of cargo. The boxes, labeled Civic Action Program, hold garden rakes, tomato seed, food, and medical supplies. The Civic Action Program reaches people demoralized by years of fighting. The program aims at the renewal of their hope and self-confidence, and the objectives stated by President Johnson to rebuild stable government and the shattered economy of Vietnam. And still, the fighting goes on. A shadow war of ambush and rapid movement, sniping and terrorism. The enemy, often part-time soldiers, with modern automatic weapons. War against this ruthless, determined enemy demands the closest ground-air coordination. And any hour can bring another mission for Colonel O'Donnell and the men of VMFA 323.
Okay, gents, the mission this afternoon is a close air support in support of Double Eagle. Call sign Condol 56-1, 2, 3, and 4. Crews in order: O'Donnell, Kelly, Norred and LeSueur, Heinzling and Johnson. Aircraft numbers 1, 6, 9, and 10. Let's go through the loading again. Bird numbers 1 and 6 are loaded with 6 napalm, each bird, plus 2 or 1 Mark IV gun pod each airplane. The last 2 birds, 9 and 10, are loaded with 12 250-pounders, plus 4 2.75 19-shot pods on each aircraft. Okay, stand by for a time hack. Coming up on 13:04. Hack. Okay, we got 1 minute to move out. Let's go.
Roger, Condol. Condol 83-1, estimating off with 4 at 1-8, over. Roger, take care.
Rotating patrols with their enormous striking power, available on call to ground units or to the air observer, who spots an enemy concentration in his slow-moving survey of the terrain.
Heading down through Angels 1-8.
You have a little hairpin turn. You can find this on the north edge of the river, about a mile further to the east from the burning grass.
Affirmative.
Okay, from that hairpin, go east about 200 or 300 meters, and you'll see a small swing about east north. Okay, it's a little bridge on the road there that crosses that small stream. It's about 100 meters north of where they run into the lake.
As long as this bitter conflict continues, those who fly in Vietnam, Marines and Navy, as well as Army and Air Force, will devote their full strength, courage, and skill to stay on target for ultimate victory.